So you have no idea what I've heard about Dazzle Dry. No, I'm just kidding. I had one of the viewers email me, and she is having some problems with Dazzle Dry, and she has two opposite problems. But before we start, a little background. I've been a professional nail technician for over 25 years now. Initially, I started with the gel application, with acrylic, with fiberglass, and then I transitioned into natural nail care, and I've been using Dazzle Dry for about since 2019, so 4 years now. And I absolutely love it. But no product is perfect, and each product has its pros and cons. And I just don't want to only talk about the good things about Dazzle Dry, but I wanted to help you when you are having issues with the product as well. So let's see what this viewer said. So my experience with Dazzle Dry has not been good with my manicures. I've had about 6 manicures now, professionally done, back to back, and they have all chipped in the first 3 to 4 days. The second to last chipped on the first day. Okay, so again, let me troubleshoot. I don't have all the information because it's difficult to, obviously, it's very difficult to say what's going on without seeing the nails and knowing a little bit more. But these are the 3 things that could cause chipping within like first few days, because this is not normal. It shouldn't be happening, but it can happen. So number one cause of something chipping this quickly is damaged nail plate. And I'm going to show you what I mean by damaged, because very often people don't think their nails are damaged. They just think that their nails are bad. So for example, here, this is what the damaged nail plate looks like. So actually this client came to me and she wanted to have, I think, gel polish done on her nails, or polish, I can't remember now. And I told her straight out, I'm like, you know what, we can do treatments, but if I put any nail polish on, it's just not going to last, because I know, I can see it, that these nails are severely damaged and nothing is going to stay. So as you can see, there is redness, the ends are just, chipping, and I just know 100% this is not gonna stay. The next day she would have peeling. So it's almost like when let's say you're trying to paint your walls and you wanna buy a nice expensive paint. So you buy a nice expensive paint and you expect good results, right? But then even, let's go a step further, you hire a painter because you think, okay, I wanna do a good job, I want to have nice walls, so I'm going to hire a professional. So now you can have someone that will come in and will look at your walls and they will say, you know what, lady, your walls need fixing. There are holes and there was water damage, like you need some serious, the walls need some serious help. And they are not going to paint over the damage. So same thing with nails. Although we cannot repair the nails really, there are things that will improve the damage, but the damage just has to grow out. And then you might have someone who will just say, well, okay, the lady hired me to paint her walls and I will literally paint the walls. So I will paint over the water damage and I will paint over the holes. And it is what it is. So guess what? Of course, if you choose the second person, the walls are going to not last, and it's not going to help that you bought an expensive paint. Number 2 cause for chipping right away like this would be improper application. And people can make many mistakes. Sometimes they just think that Dazzle Dry is just like any other brand, and they just don't really learn how to work with the system. So it could be many things. Usually it's the base coat not warmed up properly, because the base coat, sometimes it thickens up and it looks more jelly when the temperature reaches below, I don't know, it's 20 degrees or something. So then you have to put it in a bowl of hot water and let it thin out. But don't use any thinners or anything like that in the base coat. So sometimes, again, improper application or damaged product, who knows? Maybe sometimes someone didn't know that they can't thin out the base coat and they used the thinner in the base coat and product just did not bond properly. Or they might have used, let's say, a thinner for the nail polish that is from another line. Who knows? Maybe they just didn't even apply the base coat properly and they didn't cover all the edges, because it's very easy to do, especially with Dazzle Dry, because the Dazzle Dry base coat dries matte. So you really have to pay attention to how you are applying it. And the number 3 reason why Dazzle Dry would peel within 2 or 3 days is just simply improper use and just being rough with your nails. So it's almost like, you know, imagine going to a hairdresser and getting a nice blow dry. And then, you know, everything looks good, but then you go, I don't know, to a swimming pool or some sauna or something, or you go out in the rain, and then the blow dry is destroyed. So this could happen too. Dazzle Dry used to, I think, advertise that the product lasts up to 14 days. So what people see right away, it's the 14 days. So they think that their manicure is going to look perfect for 14 days, but don't forget it's up to 14 days. So 5 is also less than 14 days. So it's a little bit tricky, this type of advertising. I personally never use that type of advertising because it really, really depends. It depends on, like I said, the other 3 things, if it's applied properly, and it depends on the condition of the nails. Also, a couple things that can destroy the finish of Dazzle Dry is the use of sunscreens. So whenever you're applying a sunscreen, which is a good thing, obviously, just don't apply it over your nails. So don't grab a sunscreen and then just kind of go like this with it, okay? So just grab some sunscreen, and if you want to put it on your hands, just put it gently without touching your nails. Another thing that can completely peel off your, not only Dazzle Dry, but it can happen with shellac. It actually happened to me a few weeks ago with one of my clients. She had some peeling on her nails within days. So initially she, you know, automatically people blame the product. So she's like, oh, did you use anything different this time? I'm like, no, the same thing. And then later on she realized, and actually she came back to me, so she said, you know what, I think what happened, I was using one of those warming creams because she had some muscle pain, and she was using her right hand to apply it, and this is where she had the peeling. So these creams can definitely damage the surface of a nail polish or even nail polish. Going back to the email, she says, I did love the pedicures up until the last one I had because they looked great and lasted long. So this is weird, right? How the product is not lasting on her hands, but it is lasting on her feet. The last Dazzle Dry pedicure was on my feet for a month, and then I removed the polish and my toenails had extreme nail surface damage when I removed the polish. I probably should not have left it that long, but I did that with the other pedicures, and it was back-to-back pedicures, and the previous ones were fine. Okay, so let's unpack this. So I think having a pedicure on your feet for a month is not excessive, and I think what's excessive is sometimes people wearing polish for 3 months, and then some surface damage can definitely happen. So now I have been working with the Dazzle Dry, like I said, for 4 years, and I use it exclusively pretty much on the feet now. And I'm just telling you from my experience that this is not common. So it's not common that people don't have surface damage from other brands, and they do have surface damage from Dazzle Dry. Okay, so usually when we switch someone from another brand to Dazzle Dry, they have improvement, and I'll show you that in a second. But what can happen, which is not her case, I think, but what can happen is that sometimes people don't have good results with other brands, and then they finally have good results with Dazzle Dry, and they just kind of overdo it. And they leave it on for too long, and then obviously even Dazzle Dry can cause issues. But I will show you what is common in my practice, okay? So this is from my Patreon. I was talking about nail surface damage, and here is one of my regular clients. And she used to get her pedicures done on a very regular basis, like every 3 weeks or so. And this is how her nails looked normally. And as you can see, there is some white spots. So this is surface damage. By the way, this is not dryness. And very often people call this dryness because it just kind of looks dry. But nail polish actually raises the moisture level in the nail. It doesn't lower it. So it can be dryness, because if it was dryness, then if you just added water, this would just disappear. And it's not a dryness from the acetone. I have another very interesting comparison, which I will include in the description box. You guys have to see it. Very, very cool test. Anyway, so this was, I think she wore RPI on a regular basis, like bubble bath or something. So we actually tried to do IBX treatments and see if the IBX treatment is going to help. And it kind of didn't. So it did look better, you see, after the IBX, but then when I applied the polish and then I removed it, so this is with oil, we went back to the same issue. Okay, so this was after the nail polish removal. So as you can see, just like flakiness, white spots, strange. Anyway, so then this was 2019, and I actually switched her to Dazzle Dry, from the RPI to Dazzle Dry. And we used Dazzle Dry for the last 2 pedicures. And I was saying, I'm not sure if it's making a difference. The nails look better, but it's probably partially why, because Dazzle Dry solution, prep solution, is not super drying. So it contains some water and glycerin. I will keep you updated. Anyway, so, but the nails started to look better, right? You can still obviously see some yellowing, but they are looking, I don't know, a little bit better. Anyway, as you can see, first of all, you can see that the yellowing is growing out and the damage is lower, right? So it's growing out. So nothing will really fix the existing damage, but the damage usually can, if the product is not contributing to extra damage, the damage just grows out. All the yellowing, first of all, is gone, and all the white spots are gone. So I would say this is pretty typical. Now, I did have some clients that, for example, never wore nail polish, then they started wearing Dazzle Dry, and they did get white spots. They didn't get the yellowing, but they did get the white spots. So why does that happen? There could be a few reasons, and I don't know exactly why it happens, but I have a couple guesses. I think one of them is that just simply some people, the way their nails are made, they don't have very strong bonds between the keratin fibers. So it's almost like a loose network of nail. And then you add something on top of that nail that it's tightly, securely bonded to that nail plate. Now, during the wear, the nail bends, you're moving it. Also, the nail will absorb some water when it's submerged in water, when you're taking a shower, when you're swimming, whatever. So it just moves constantly. I think that movement over time can loosen up the cells on the top layer of your nail plate. And then they look like little, when you think about it, they look like little dried up blisters. So blisters don't really happen because of dryness, but they are starting to be visible when they dry out. So a similar thing I think happens to the natural nail. It's just when you take the polish off, especially with acetone, you will see that the top layer of the nail is damaged, but it's not because of the dryness, it's just dryness makes it look visible, and then acetone gets the blame. Because if you put the oil on the nail, the moisture will build up in those layers, in those top layers of the nail, and it will fill in those little blisters, and they're not going to be visible. So this is what's happening. So partially, I think it happens because of the bond of the product to the natural nail, and that bond can pick up the nail plate. Because very often, like I said, either the acetone gets the blame or a removal gets the blame. But we're just wiping the nails. There was no scratching the product. My clients were not peeling off the gel from their nails. I'm not doing any buffing or anything to the nail that would remove layers and layers of the natural nail. So this could happen because of the actual wear of the product. Now, usually when the product is changed more often, so when the coating is changed more often, I see that less happening. So I'm assuming that over time the product gets a little bit more brittle, and maybe that brittleness also can pick up the layers of the natural nail. I don't know. So what I suggest doing is using oil, and usually jojoba oil is a very good choice. Not because of the moisture, it's because the oil will plasticize the coating. And maybe when the coating is more flexible, it moves a little bit more with the nail. Another reason why I don't think it's happening as much with Dazzle Dry compared to other products or other brands is because Dazzle Dry dries thinner. So it's a very, very thin coating. And maybe because it's very thin, it just moves with the nail a little bit more. Now I see much more surface damage of the natural nail, unfortunately, with the Transform, with the ridge filler. And I know one person who uses like, I don't know, 3 coats of the ridge filler because she wants to have her nails like really, really, you know, smooth and everything else. And she is experiencing more surface damage. Because I think this is like a perfect storm that's happening. I suggest changing the product a little bit more often, using the oil, and then taking breaks between the application. So it's not to give the nails time to breathe because the nails are not breathing, but maybe possibly you're giving the nails some time to absorb some of the oil to plasticize the nail plate. I don't know, but this seems to be working. And now very often I hear that it was all fine until it wasn't fine. And that also happens very often, unfortunately, with the gel polish application and all the allergic reactions. So it's almost like, and I don't want to make fun of this situation because it's not funny, but I kind of like the comparison. So it's almost like, you know, smoking your whole life and then eventually developing a lung disease and then just saying, I don't know, I was fine for the last 30 years and all of a sudden I have lung disease. Like, it can't be the cigarettes because I've smoked all my life. Well, unfortunately, it is because you've smoked all your life probably, right? So everything is good until it's not good. So this is why I really prefer to prevent the surface damage from happening, because once it's there, it just then has to grow out. There is very kind of little that you can do in order to fix it. What I would do in her case is, she said she has not gotten a pedicure due to surface damage or manicure because the Dazzle Dry has not lasted on my fingernails. So what I would do in case of the surface damage, just start using the oil after a shower, and then try using the OPI repair mode, because that seems to be helping to bond some of the cells together. Again, this is not a miracle product. It's not going to, they say it repairs 99% of keratin. No, they say it repairs up to 99% of keratin damage or something. I don't know how they figure that, but I know it can help. So again, this is not a miracle. It's not going to fix all of it, but it might improve it. And maybe then just not wearing the polish for as long, and or maybe not back to back. So what I recommend to my clients, and it seems to be to those clients that do have surface damage, that they're prone to surface damage, or their nails are prone to surface damage, I tell them, you know what, can you remove the polish like 2 days prior to the pedicure, use the oils, and then we'll do the pedicure. And that seems to be very, very helpful. And they do wear the nail polish for a month. I don't really have clients that come every 2 weeks or anything like that. So maybe try that and try the OPI repair mode. And then she has questions. May I just use the Dazzle Dry nail color without any base coat or top coat? No, because the product is not going to bond without the base coat, and it's not going to be shiny without the top coat. It really is not going to bond. So it's just going to probably peel off in one coat. So I don't recommend it. And then she asks, or may I use the Dazzle Dry color with no base coat and a top coat from OPI? Again, no, because the color coat is not going to bond to the natural nail. And another question would be, can I use the Dazzle Dry with a different base coat and top coat? No, because I've tried it one time, and it was because of my laziness. I was swatching something, and I wanted to swatch Dazzle Dry, and I had a base coat or something on my nails that I just applied. So I thought, okay, I'll just swatch it on top of it, and the color just like did not apply properly whatsoever. It was shrinking. It was just it was not good. So absolutely not. Dazzle Dry is not always compatible with other brands. I do know that some people wear the Dazzle Dry base coat and Dazzle Dry top coat with other brand colors because they have other polishes. But I just don't, I guess they want to use up the other polishes, but I really don't see the benefit of doing that, because when you're using Dazzle Dry with Dazzle Dry base coat, in order, like, why would you do that? If you are doing this to prevent yellowing of the natural nails, the nails still might yellow, because the yellowing might come from either the coloring or the pigments, whatever, in the nail polish, or from the actual nitrocellulose in the color coat. So it can still penetrate through the base coat to the nail plate, because it's not like the base coat is like a metal coat that nothing will go through it. It's absolutely very porous, and some of the nitrocellulose, when it breaks down, can actually penetrate through that base coat and still cause yellowing. If you are using the Dazzle Dry base coat and top coat in order for the polish to dry in 5 minutes, it's not going to dry in 5 minutes, because with Dazzle Dry, it's not just the top coat that dries in 5 minutes. The actual color coats and the base coat dry really, really fast. So if you are using Dazzle Dry base coat and other brands color, it's still going to take like forever to dry. So to me, that doesn't make any sense unless you are, I don't know, in love with the Dazzle Dry base coat, and you are in absolute love with the Dazzle Dry top coat, and you don't mind spending the $22 on the base coat and top coat. Because if you're using other brands, I would just use a cheaper base coat and top coat, because I would not want to be spending so much money and not getting the benefits that I expect from Dazzle Dry. So now you know what would happen if you mixed the brand with other brands. And I'm hoping that this answers your questions. And thank you so much for watching this video. See you soon. Bye.